to listen to all the conversations you've had and everything else, and just sort of getting to know you and sort of other teachers that you've had on and everything else. So I feel honored that you asked me on.
Oh, absolutely. The honor is mine, really. I think that in general, everyone is doing such great work, but you specifically, I love your posts and I love the challenges that you put out. And, and it feels good to have you cheering me on, to tell you the truth, too. I love seeing just, little comments and just your presence. It does mean a lot to me, so I appreciate that.
No, it's cool. It's been good. I think, for me, the lockdowns, actually, I think with you turn around and saying reflecting and everything else, we had a conversation about some stuff that's gone on with me. But actually the lockdowns allowed me to reflect on sort of my life and also connect with teachers, for example, like you and other teachers in the States that obviously I'm in London, so, which is why it's sort of grey and miserable behind me. But to connect with teachers in the States that I wouldn't have been able to sort of connect with and sort of just listening to other people's stories and everything else, it's sort of been really sort of a useful time.
Absolutely. It's been such a treat. So for those who don't know, can you just say your name and your business?
So I'm Darren Tickle, and I'm a sort of a Pilates instructor. So I got my own sort of freelance business, which is Body Align, and I mainly teach Pilates originally at gyms and studios, and now sort of obviously Zoom, sort of doing things from home and teaching privates and corporate classes. So
yeah,
that's about it.
Yes. And you've been working with Dana, you're saying, primarily through the quarantine.
Yeah. Which has been a godsend for me. So I've been really fortunate enough to work with her and Elaine as well. Ewan, I think, is a right surname. So that's Rhinebook Pilates.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot with the two of them. So, but I've learned. Yeah, it's been brilliant actually working with Dana and suffering as well. It's sort of like, I know you got her on Friday, isn't it? So
yes, that's gonna be fun chatting with her.
Yeah.
So what would you feel like? Now how long have you been teaching Pilates for?
So I've been teaching for roughly about 10 years now. So mainly mat work, so not so much equipment. So originally I did my studying with Balanced Body.
Yes.
And sort of did mat module there, sort of did that over a year, then did the reformer and then some of the other equipment. And then I just went out, started teaching, and mainly got mat classes in gyms and studios, because that's where I think I felt more comfortable.
Okay.
Basically, I think we've had the conversations, being a man and everything else. I think you saw probably more men, and also allowed me to use the gyms for free as well.
Yes.
And so sort of that was my journey. And then I've sort of progressed now. So I think I did a thing for Pilatesology sort of a few weeks ago, and I met Brooke. And I always forget her surname because I always say Brooke.
Seiler.
Yeah, no. And she changed, all of a sudden it's going, okay, now I've suddenly discovered what Pilates is. And then I started going through the classical and sort of did stuff with some lineage teachers, so specifically Fletcher, and sort of some stuff with Kathy Grant as well, sort of following more Blossom.
Yes.
So yeah, that's it.
Amazing.
Yeah, I could waffle on for a bit too long, so I'll shut up.
No, this is this is the thing too, like I'm a listener, so I'll just ask you one question and sit back and just listen to your stories all day. So so it's a fascinating journey when you get into just one piece of it and it whets your appetite, and then all of a sudden it's like, I want more, where can I find more? And it becomes this like relentless pursuit after that for just more and more, right?
Yeah, I think, and what's also been sort of new, so obviously having stuff like Pilatesology and Pilates Anytime, where for us in the UK, you're all of a sudden you're able to access teachers from the States that I just would never have been able to sort of get to and everything else.
Yes.
And I think that helped me progress with my Pilates teacher, and also suddenly watching just the videos or workshops on there and go, actually, I'm going to change how I teach. And to be honest, sort of how long have I been working with Dana now? For about 3 months, I think.
Okay.
and my teaching's changed completely, like how I cue
Yes.
everything, how I teach everything, how I use my feet, how I teach people with their feet and everything else. And it's just sort of like all of a sudden it's gone like, wow. So
Hmm.
this is what I should have been teaching 10 years ago.
Right. And to think
Not,
like 10 years from now, you'll have even more. And the stuff you know now, you'll be like, man, that was so elementary to like, you know?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
yeah.
know. I think maybe in 10 years' time I should have retired. I'm not sure yet.
No, we never retire. There's
Mm.
always people to help, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's and that like you're saying about the cues and the footwork, like I found that for myself coming from the personal training world and then into Pilates. I learned so much. And then in the last 2 weeks, learning more about, like my eye, like, just like certain things that you look for. And like, it's fascinating how there's always like another layer to what you
mm,
already know.
yeah. And I think that's, for me, that's probably been the beauty of Pilates is that you keep learning. And so for me, I'm never a sort of, I'm always going to be a student. I'm always going to be learning
Yes.
from other people. It's like,
Right.
I mean, we've had various different conversations, but years ago, I used to manage a sort of a yoga and Pilates studio in Brick Lane.
Mhm.
And I loved working with teachers that had just passed, and yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, and just going to their classes because all of a sudden, one, you see their enthusiasm, but all of a sudden you
Mhm.
learn from them that, like, I was going, I don't remember ever learning that.
Right.
And you're just
Yes.
going, it's just amazing, which is why I like going to different teachers' classes because I think we always pick something
Yes.
up and
We
learn
do.
even from different disciplines and things like that.
Yes, yes. That's the beauty of it. When you are on that quest to understand more and to learn more, you realize that it's not just from the seasoned veteran teachers you're going to learn it from. It is, like you said, from the new person who's going to bring their own life experience to the mat. And I love that. Like
Yeah,
like even just the way that they teach things, from the way that they think their body understands in a way, so they communicate in a way that their body understands it. And you're like, oh, I'm going to use that.
yeah, yeah. I just think I think it's the beauty of sort of like Pilates yoga, you know, we're always evolving, we're always sort of learning
Mm,
and also working with different bodies. I think for me, though, I worked mostly in gyms, I think I got to see so many different bodies and just looking at how people move. So even the hundreds, you're suddenly looking at someone and going, okay, so that I need to adapt for you because you're not feeling that and you need to sort of be
yes,
sort of
more
giving different cues
connected,
or
or
different, yeah,
yes, right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. The comment you made a moment ago about, connecting with teachers from the US, I feel like this has been my opportunity being in North America to connect with teachers in Europe, where I feel like I've met, like Miguel Silva in Spain, or Labrice in Switzerland, or
yes,
Celia Jones in Australia. Like it's almost like I thought that the Pilates world was in the US, and now discovering that there's this whole wide world of Pilates out there.
yeah,
James Shaw, yourself, like in UK, but Brooke, is in UK as well, right? So
yeah, yeah. It's been amazing having Brooke come over here.
yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because obviously I know of James, but I still haven't been to his class. It's like I was going to go to some of his classes just before
Yes.
lockdown because I was going to be
Yes.
in Camden at the time that he was teaching. I'm eventually going to come and do your class because I've been talking about it for ages, and then lockdown happened and it just didn't happen.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I think that's sort of been yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna sort of stop. I feel like I'm
Yes.
waffling now. I'm gonna.
No, 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 that's fine. The like what? So what is the? I wonder how can I ask this? What is the Pilates climate like in London? Like I've met yourself, uh, Sabrina Kelly, yourself, James, well, obviously Brooke. Like, is there a sense of community and connection amongst the Pilates people in that there?
Yeah, I think there is. I think the thing that I find is that we don't have the same sort of like. Obviously, we have Pilates and Tour come here sort of once a year. I
Yes.
think we're quite siloed. So we work in our studios and we work sort of within that studio rather than mixing. I mean,
Yes.
I think when I used to manage probably a yoga studio, I sort of had bigger network of Pilates teachers and things that I could pull on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still quite different. And I was having this conversation with Brooke. It's like over in the UK, I think the physios and things has taken over the Pilates. So the classical was pushed to one side and the lineage, and we was learning very much from a rehab-based work.
Rehab, like corrective exercise based.
Yeah, and I might be speaking a little bit out of turn, but I felt like we was dumbing down and sort of not necessarily, if we're physically fit, it's like the classical just changes everything around.
Right.
And I think there wasn't enough of that, the classical. There was only a few studios, and I know they've expanded and things like that, and there's been a few more now appearing.
Right.
But there are networks, so we do have the network groups on Facebook. I think there's some people are more involved in it than others. Mm-hmm. For me, I've not sort of got so involved in that because I think I just go out and teach, and I'm sort of very much a silo because I don't have a studio as such, or I'm not associated with a studio. I'm associated with gyms more. I just go into the gyms, teach, and then I go off and sort of teach to the next place, the next place, the next place. So we're running around a lot.
Right.
So it might be very different. I think I can't remember how James feels about it because he works at Excel and at Frame, I think, solely.
Right.
So he might feel like there's a bit more of a connection.
Sure. And for those of you who are watching right now, if you're a Pilates instructor in the UK, like feel free to put your comments in the section. Like, how do you feel about the Pilates community in Europe? Like, is there a connection within UK? Like, is there any kind of collaboration? Because I think that kind of, while I'm waiting for that answer, Darren, I'm thinking about how we as men approach this as well, right? Get a little comment here from Jay.
Yeah, Joe will probably be able to answer on some of that because she does. I've just done my pre and postnatal training with her, and she's fantastic.
Yes.
And she's a Pilates teacher up in North London, so she has more of a sort of. She's probably more into the networking than I am, which is weird. It's like I mean, my background, I should be networking a lot more, but still like I'm rubbish at networking. I've sort of been a bit shit at it.
Oh, too funny.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that as well. Yeah.
No, it's all good. This is real talk, whatever. Yeah. But I just noticed, just in general, that, and maybe this is a sad commentary, and men and guys, if you want to call me out on it, but like I look at Black Girl Pilates, for example, right? And Sonia Herbert and that group, these ladies really support one another and they connect, and they're out there and they're pushing each other's classes, and they're really out there on the front lines doing stuff. And a lot of the guys that I speak with, myself included, we're trying to get stuff done. We're trying to not necessarily get out there and just like make a ton of friends. We're really just trying to connect with our communities and support our communities, but not really reach out to find the other Pilates instructors at the same time to lock arms and to work collaboratively with. And it's not a knock on them. I'm just recognizing that like we don't do that as much, and maybe it's because we're not as social or just trying to build our empires. I don't know what the reason is, but I just throw that out there for
yeah, I suppose. So for me, again, we had this conversation. So I came in on Pilates from a completely different route. I mean, I was doing. So I think you was talking about divorce. I lost my partner, died sort of 15 years ago. And
that long ago, eh? Wow.
Yeah, it's 15 years. So it's still, it's weird because you think that it wouldn't be so raw, and it still is at certain levels. Mm-hmm. So for me, 15 years ago, it's like I had a massive bereavement. I sort of, my whole world had collapsed. Mm-hmm. I had various other things. My dad had passed away sort of a year or so before that. My nan had. I stopped drinking before my partner died, so that that was probably a blessing, because I think if I hadn't, I probably would have turned to an alcoholic just like my dad was. And I came into it, so I then started going to the gym, which I'd never done before. I started working out, I started training. I then got heavily into kettlebells, which I still do and love. And again, I have various conversations with Dana about this because, again, I get back problems from doing it, and she not tells me off, she just gives me a look. And I tore both of my rotator cuffs and my lower back started playing out. And that's, so the gym that I work at the moment, Third Space, they had a Pilates studio there and a physio. So the physio that I saw said, try Pilates and see. So I went into the studio and started doing work. And that sort of like, so this is sort of allowing me to be able to do the things. So the things that I love, sort of like the kettlebells, which was more of a masculine environment. The gym was, yeah, I know.
Right.
With the Pilates studio, it was all women in there, and all the clients were women. I was the only man in there.
Yes.
And I think that's and again, I don't know whether I'm talking out of turn, but for me, every time I've been to a Pilates class, I'm normally the only man there.
Yes.
And it's very rare that you've got another man in there, unless again they've got back injuries or something else and they've been told to go to Pilates. They've been forced to go in there rather than actually go themselves and see the benefits.
Right.
And I think, and also I don't know, again, because it had gone very much dance based, it's like all the teachers were dancers. So when I started teaching, obviously I'm not come from a dance base. I don't move like a dancer. I mean, I don't, flexibility, I run, I sort of still do kettlebells, I don't stretch. And so I'm not as fluid. And I think whether that puts men off from going into this as a career, or again, a lot of people, and especially when I left my career, so I was a senior business analyst, I was a web developer before that. So when I left my career to go and teach, a lot of people was going, well, you're not going to make money from that. So I think, and also a lot of people are going, oh, well, why are you doing this? You know, there's a lot of negativity around it.
Yes.
And I don't know whether that's, I mean, it's interesting what you were saying about the networking is I don't really know many male teachers over in the UK, apart from probably James.
Right.
And a few others that I may sort of know of in passing. But again, doing collaboration, I've not done any collaboration, but that may just be me.
Right. Yes. But I mean, you did touch on a few things there that become barriers to men getting into Pilates, right? Like, one, it's all females. 2, they're all dancers. 3, the perception that there's no money in it, right? 4, the fact that you think that you have to be flexible to be able to do it. And 5, I'm not hurt, so I don't need it. So that pretty much sums it up, right? And here we are.
Yeah. But I think, I think when I've done some of Lane's classes online and everything else, and it is quite funny, is like, I think the first one I did with her, someone turned around and said, there's a man in the class. And it was going, but Joseph Pilates was a man. So why is it so unusual?
Yes. It's true. Like, do you find, every time I'm in a Zoom class, I don't know about you, but every time I'm in a Zoom class, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm the only guy. Like,
yeah, I don't look. It's funny because everyone's been, a couple of people have turned around. So again, I've been doing Elaine's classes for quite a while. I mute myself straight away, and then I put the camera directly onto Elaine, and so I don't look. I don't put it on any other view, so I'm not even sort of like aware of who's in there and who's not, unless someone turns around and tells me afterwards, "Oh, I saw you in the class." But yeah, right. I think I've done a couple of Brooks classes on Zoom and everything else, and looked and was going, yeah, I'm literally the only bloke there, or there's maybe one other.
Yes. Or
maybe the bloke's not got the cameras on, so that maybe that's sort of
that could be it too.
Yeah, just hiding.
Right.
But yeah, and it's interesting because I teach, so going back to teaching at the gyms and everything else, I think I've got, so at Third Space, I teach at a smaller studio and everything else, and I think I've now got more blokes coming to my class over. I've been teaching there for 5-6 years, and now I'm sort of got a core group of like 6 guys that come.
Great. Yeah.
And it's only, whether it's because I'm a male teacher or anything else, but I think they may feel more comfortable. And also, I don't teach it as in, if you're not flexible, you know, you do what you can do.
Yes.
Rather than turn around and saying your legs have got to be like a dancer's legs or teaching it that way. So
no, that's exactly it. Well, you want to be somewhere where people look like you to some degree, right? Like, I mean, I love learning from people who have a great amount of knowledge and cues and stuff I can learn from. But at the same time, if I go into a room and the guy teaching a class is like a guy has an athletic background and he's strong, but then he can also pull off a lot of these strong Pilates moves, but then has better range of motion than me. I'm like, I could probably get there. I can't get my foot like behind my head like her, but I can probably get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting. I don't know, sort of with you, have you been drawn more to go into sort of male teachers' classes on Zoom, or have you been drawn to more? Because for me, obviously the two teachers that I've been doing a lot, well,
yes,
the 4 teachers are all female.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've done some classes. I've done a couple of Chris Robinson's classes, having studied with him originally, through Lily's studio. But then also I've taken a class with Brooke, two classes with Brooke as well, who, and she said it when she was on the show. I was asking like who her ideal client was, which I'm going to ask you in a second, who her ideal client was. And she said like guys like you, right? Like she grew up with brothers. So she kind of has an understanding of what the demands of our body is going to be, not just from the I've been teaching forever perspective, but from the I actually like challenging guys and her, So I found that like I'm really resonating with the way that she teaches for that reason as well.
Yeah. I think that's probably why I sort of connected with her and liked her, because it was just like there's no nonsense. And like she's basically going to turn around and saying, I think I did a workshop with her, must have been about 2-3 years ago. I hate open leg rocker. I don't see the point of it. I was going like, my legs do not go like this. I can't have straight legs.
Right.
It's like I can't grab my toes. So why am I even going to try it? My arms are not long enough, even though they should be. And it's quite interesting the way that, like you said, is that she's breaking it down by your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, I keep going for Dana, that's what I liked about Dana's auntie, because literally she was going, but why are you trying to do that? Your body's you're not a dancer. You're not that flexible. Not as in a nasty way.
Right. Like,
as in like, you're not, your body's different. It's like, and she taught me stuff.
Right.
And Brooke has as well, that's more for my body as a male.
Yes.
Rather than like being, and it's the same with like the leg lifts and everything else. It's just like, why am I doing turn out? It's just like, it doesn't feel right.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And for me, like being bow-legged, turning out does feel right, because like, so I think that, and we're both kind of saying the same thing. There's a sense of being given permission to teach to the body in front of us beyond, because we learned in a certain way, we feel like we have to stay true to the way we've learned it. And then as we spend time with other teachers, we learn there's other ways to teach it. It almost gives us permission to broaden the way that we present the exercises to our people.
Yeah. And I think that for me has been sort of like astonishing. It's just like, yes, okay, why I should be looking at the bodies in front of me rather than this is the sequence that I should be teaching.
By rote memory, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the conversations we've having Dana. So she's been getting me to thrust my ribs out. I'm not used to teaching like that. I'm used to be pulling everything in. And she's going, but Josie Pilates never used to do it because he's a man. Like he's on a lot of movements and things. You'll look at the book, she was saying, and look where his ribs are.
Yes.
And that's just sort of made me think, oh yeah, that makes more sense. And then when I'm doing those movements and doing the way that she's recommended me to try, and it's going like, that's completely different.
It makes sense to your body.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just finished. That was just a huff at the end.
Yes. I was thinking, when I was, I've said the story before, when I was in maybe grade 11 or 12, I had a teacher who was absolutely brilliant for physics. I took this physics class, and he was so smart that you almost couldn't follow him because he was that level of intelligence that he made everything look simple. One of the things he said that I remembered, he said to us, memorize nothing, understand everything. And that helped me a lot because I find I've always had a difficult time memorizing orders, exercises, whatever, like memory verses in Sunday school when I was a kid. Like I just have trouble with the memorization part.
Yeah.
But when he said to understand everything, then that helped me to understand that this exercise goes after this exercise because this exercise sets this exercise up. So it's not just, spine stretch forward, open leg rocker, corkscrew, saw. It's this is setting up this, which makes sense that this goes next, which makes sense that this goes next. And then from there, you have permission to move things around based on the body in front of you. But I'm not going based on rote memory. I'm going based on understanding the order.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the way now that I teach. Is sometimes I go out of sequence and it's going, for me, I look at who's in front of me, and it's probably a little bit harder on Zoom because obviously you haven't got the bodies there. But I know when you're sort of looking at the room, I was teaching in council. I don't know whether they're community gyms, basically. We call them council gyms. So they're council run.
Yes.
But they're cheaper, and you used to have 40 people in a class. And it was the first time that I started teaching. You're going, okay, I've got 40 people in the class. They're not going to be able to do the stuff.
Right.
So you automatically got, and then you've got post-nasal, and then you've got people with spinal issues. You just start, I don't know.
It's crowd management at that point, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's sort of like you freak out and go, okay, I can't teach half the stuff. And I will leave stuff out. So like, I wouldn't do any inversions in classes at all because I'm going like, everyone's got neck and shoulder issues.
Yes.
And then when I did teach it, everyone was doing it and going, but none of you would listen to what I said. So why? I'm just not going to teach it anymore to you guys.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that's probably a bad thing, and probably, Brooke would probably kill me. But no, I think sometimes
it's wise though. It is wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I think it's interesting. I think like that we felt we didn't have permission.
Yes.
To be like that, or it's quite interesting is that we felt like we had to go into that order, or we had to follow this sequence rather than actually just look at the bodies in front of us and change that around.
Yes, right. Well, that ties into a whole conversation within ourselves about confidence as well, and even judgment too, because if I know what I know about Pilates, I should be confident enough to present that to people around me without the fear of people judging that this was wrong and that shouldn't have been there and this is out of order and you should have used this cue and these people aren't ready for rotation, or we should be confident enough in ourselves to be able to just go.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the pause and I think so. And is that sort of from our learnings, as we sort of we're taught a specific sequence type things, whether you're classical, temporary, whatever you've learned from manuals.
Yes.
And you just go through, this is the sequence you go through. And then, I've done multiple courses and things like that where they're not showing modifications for people with neck issues and everything else. You just don't know what to do.
Yes.
And you're just sort of like, you've got this block of sequence and you just go, well, I'm nervous about it. I don't feel like I know enough about the body. And we're not physios, we're not GPs or anything like that.
Right.
And you just go back to the basics type things. I don't know, that was probably a waffled sort of conversation. That wasn't how I was going to answer it.
It sounded awesome in your head.
I'm sure I was going to do some words of wisdom, and it just didn't sort of come through. And just sort of instead just waffled on.
I could just edit this whole part out, and we could just
yeah. This is what I noticed I do now, and particularly in classes, because I never used to have a beard. I don't know, sort of like I've grown this 4 years ago, and I do this a lot. So if I'm
Right.
sort of suddenly getting confused, or I'm going, I'm waffling, I just do this a lot, and just
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. My wife's giving me to grow this out too. Like we could wax philosophical like this for the next 15
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I think people will just think that we're really, really smart as we do that. So
But I don't know whether that answered your question at all. Probably
no,
not.
no, probably not at all. No. It's all good. No, it's but I was just saying, it's a sense of confidence in what we do and what we teach. And I saw your post, and like I think we were talking about this before too. Taking a post with your shirt off,
Yeah,
right? And I was saying it's one thing to just take your shirt off, but it's another thing to think about what that symbolizes in many other ways of being open and being vulnerable in what we present in social media. And that shirt off moment can be simply doing an exercise, doing a post of you doing a spine corrector exercise and just waiting for people to say your feet should be pointed or your legs should be up or your arms should be back or the hand should be flat. Can we take our shirt off in our post with confidence that we know what we know, sort of thing?
yeah, and I think I had conversations with friends about this as well. It's like I'm sort of shy in my own yeah, I am shy, and I probably always have been. And I think things for me, like taking my shirt off, is quite, like, I very rarely do it. Even if I go on the beach, I never used to take my shirt off, maybe more now than I did when I was younger. But it's the same with me posting sort of videos or pictures and everything else. Pictures is probably easy because you can sort of get the perfect picture.
Yes.
Do about 40 teasers. One's going to look sort of enough.
Right.
But I think it is that whole judgment. And again, I posted a kettlebell video a couple of years ago, and I got two great teachers one from Third Space, called Kettlebell Tim, that I always go to if I got any issues and everything else. And then there's a Marcus, who is a guy in the States, and I've done online programs with him, and that's what I'm doing. So I posted something of a heavy kettlebell movement that I was doing. My shoulders were both flared up again. I got issues with both of my shoulders, so my rotator cuffs were flaring up. So there was a modification that I was doing, and I had two people that I knew message me directly, criticized my movement based, turn around and said I was doing this wrong, turn around and said I shouldn't be lifting that heavy weight.
Yes.
So completely knocked my confidence back. So I went to my instructor and went, but this is why they're doing that type things, because literally it knocked me back for 6.
Yes.
And it just knocked my confidence. I don't post kettlebell videos up there since, and I haven't done.
Yes.
And I think that's, was my technique wrong? No, not for the injuries that I had. Did I put that I had those injuries? No, because that's not the reason why I was putting those posts up there. I wasn't doing it as an instructor. I was doing it as, this is my workout that I've been doing with Tim for the year, and I'm lifting heavier weights now than what I had been. And yes, my form wasn't affected, but it's the same with sort of Pilates, is that everything has to be perfect, and you're going, but why?
Why? Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be authentic than perfect.
Yeah. And again, it comes back as to why I'm sorely working with the teachers that I am, because they're not turning around and saying, you should be perfect. It's like with, I struggle with one-legged squats on the resistor.
Okay.
Basically, again, another injury, a tear. I had a small tear on my one of my glutes on my left side, so single leg work is really hard for me.
Yes.
And it's like, why can't I do that? Why can't I look perfect? Why can't I do this? And it's going why am I worrying about it?
Right.
Just do a single leg squat. You can do it with your range. You just have to change things around.
Yes, exactly. So I just see a couple of comments here. So Alexandra, that's my wife, just so you know here. So social media is a big reason people don't feel they belong. When you take 40 pictures to get one perfect one, those who don't look perfect feel like they will never look like that. That's exactly it. And, you know, psychologically, what we do is we compare the best version of yourself against the worst version of myself.
Yeah.
So we're setting ourselves up to fail every single time.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, what your wife said is, yeah, it's true. It's like we're looking at social media all the time and we're comparing ourselves. It's like, I'm really bad at doing it. It's like, I compare myself all the time to other people and go, why am I doing it? I'm not, you know, you never know the truth about the individual that's out there, whether they're doctoring their pictures, whatever, but also you don't know what their background is.
Yep. Right. Exactly. You have a ton of pictures up there. You have a lot of really good content to say that you're not like.
I probably took a lot of pictures to sort of post any of that.
It's like 17,000 pictures to get.
Yeah. Just to put up, But I think over time I've got more confidence. Like my body's evolved, my body's changed. I think on that Pilatesology, since I've been doing more classical, and this is for my body. I'm not saying like any other form is wrong. Contemporary, I still go back and do. So I do work on Pilates anytime with Amy Haven, who's got some amazing shoulder mobility work, and I still go back there, and I will go back there and do that.
Yes.
But for me, it's all right. Just saying hella things about my crisscross.
There you go.
And actually, that was one thing that I did like. I think Catherine Ross Nash actually made a comment about it and said that it looked awesome, and that was like, I feel like I've achieved something. I'm just doing crisscross now.
Yes.
So
you just have one exercise in your repertoire.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to teach now. Yeah, doing crisscross.
Yes.
But I forgot. I've lost my train of thought now.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about like those perfect pictures and how.
Yeah. And I think us sort of just taking pictures and not looking perfect actually helps other people just to sort of think we're not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, which is probably why I don't post many open leg rocker, because mine just looks awful every time.
Yes, but I think that's like what you're saying there. That's exactly it. And I think I'll put pictures up there that aren't terrible, but like I know they're not perfect, just so that I can put it up again in a couple of weeks, because I know I'm working on it. So we can watch. You can see the progress in my Pilates if you're to look at my Real Men Do Pilates page from a year ago compared to today. So something that was like horrible a year ago is decent now, right?
Yeah. You will see that I never put any rocking pictures up there because I can't rock. It's just like I can't do rocking. It just doesn't work. And I'm trying to. Dana's given me some stuff to do on it, and I've just been really bad. And I sent I've forgotten. I sent a video of me doing it on the small barrel to someone, and literally I just like plonked, and it's just going, that's not going to happen.
This isn't for public consumption just yet.
No, not yet. No. But yeah, that's one of the things I probably don't post much.
Yeah, or but Alex, I think, like, she's, as she said too, like she refuses to post ever. So I think people may never just get to that point.
Yeah, but I think suddenly going back with so the challenge that I done from Dawn at Windsor Pilates, I think those challenges are really good. Like Benjamin does and I always forget his surname. I'm terrible at surnames. He does the Matt Madness, doesn't he, in March? And that I love, because like we talked about the Pilates community earlier on, is that suddenly brings the whole community across the world. Yes. And it's so nice. Like I think I did do a picture of me doing rocking, and it's actually nice. You don't get the negative comments from other teachers as they turn around and say, well, it's good, but you need to do this or work on that. And they're giving you positive feedback rather than saying, that's shit, why are you even posting that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's just it. I mean, I think we, generally speaking, we are all trying to get better. And I think that there's a collective sympathy, because we're all trying to get better at it. So that's awesome to see. I think that your posts are great. Your encouragement is great as well. And I think as long as we're doing those two things in tandem, it makes room for more grace when we put stuff up that's not as polished, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's nice to sort of, you know, we all come from different backgrounds. We all progress in our journey as teachers type things. And
Yes.
and I think it's nice you get sort of either positive feedback or comments saying, actually, you know, it's the same. I think I keep going back to the two teachers, Brooke.
Yes.
It's like she did I think a post on the pedipal where she was turning around and saying like her imperfections and things like that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And you're going, that's so nice to hear that.
Right.
And suddenly realize, not someone like Brooke's not perfect.
Right. You know what's funny about that post though? Because remember she put it and she said, "What's wrong with this picture?" And I was like, I couldn't find it there. I was like, and then people were like this and this and this, and I, for a moment I had this like self-esteem moment. I was like, I can't even see what's wrong. But
I think it's also because we think she's perfect type things is what she does. I mean, I think I did a spine corrector workshop or class with her and things like that, and like her legs are just 10 times long, or I think they're 10 times longer. They're obviously not, but like my legs go like I think I celebrated doing my rollovers. I could never get my feet down onto the mat, and I think this year I've managed to achieve it, and that was just like a massive achievement for me.
Right.
Like,
I saw that picture. It's like this is almost like a self-deprecating conversation. We're both like, okay, so we suck at Pilates, everybody, and let's go find a female teacher.
I think we could do core work.
Yes.
Like abdominal teasers, just push-ups. But anything else is just like. But I think and that's the bit that I think with Dana when I'm going through it, it's like so when we're going through Joe's work, he didn't do half of these movements that that we're trying to do. It's just like he was different as he was a man. Like these teasers, when you look at it, it's not as like a dancer
in half, right? Exactly. No. Yeah. So, but I mean, and just to kind of save it before we both decide to just end our lives because we can't do Pilates like Brooke Seiler, there's what we bring as men to the table is the very thing that is going to bring more men into the Pilates studio, right? Like we're coming at it from a kettlebell background, coming at it from a personal training background, coming at it from an athlete background. Charm City PT, I see you, like guys like him, like, strong black men doing Pilates. Like we come at it from a different place that draws those people in. And then we have the authority to say, this is what Pilates looks like. We get to change the narrative on what Pilates looks like. You don't have to be this dancer with, both legs, folded in half on your open leg rocker. We're not even going to do an open leg rocker today. Like, like it's not even happening today.
But I still make my clients do it. Like the same with me. It's like, I will still do it. Yes. I'm not, I think that's probably the refreshing thing is, and also our bodies are different. I mean, I think when you look at the mat sequence and you sort of see a lot of it is strength based, a lot of it is hard, as everyone thinks it's easy, but it is really challenging in a different perspective. And then I think I did one of Chris Robinson's classes on Pilatesology, and then doing I always like his press ups and things like that he did, and I think he did an advanced class, and he had changed a lot of things like rolling into a ball, open into open leg rocker, open leg rocker, into jackknife and things like that. It's really nice because you're suddenly changing it around into something a little bit more athletic and sort of heart rate and everything else.
Absolutely. We have about 8 minutes left, Darren. I want to say, like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, you are redefining what Pilates looks like. You're making Pilates look cool for guys that are out there, so keep doing your thing, man.
Thank you for that. I'm not sure whether I'm making it that cool. I am sort of making it for older men type things, I think.
Yeah, that counts.
I've just noticed there was a couple of Barry's, or I think I saw a few of the guys that I used to do Barry's. I did Barry's boot camp for a while, and that killed me. Like we were saying about the competitiveness and everything else, and you're just going like, I used to compete with a 20-year-old, and I'm going, I don't know why. It's the same, like trying to get perfect open leg rocker.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, not sure. Yeah. Anyway.
Funny. Happy Pilates Monkey says, I'm not flexible or come from a major dance background. I really appreciate guys like you because my Pilates practice looks like yours. I felt so much confident after seeing Martin's class. Thank you. Yeah, so that's it. So, and I think that that's what we bring to the table is a brand of Pilates, which is true to the classical, true to its roots as a man who designed Pilates for men and for everybody, but not just for super uber flexible dancers, right? So,
yeah, definitely. And I think hopefully more male teachers will come out and, you know, and go back to sort of what his vision was.
Yes.
And sort of teach that. And
yeah.
I probably get a whole load of I probably get, when I do my training with Dana, she'll tell me off for saying, what are you talking about? Why did you mention that? It's
well, she has her time on Friday, so I'm sure we'll talk about you for the hour just as payment.
Yeah, she'll probably video some of my sort of moves and how
we'll
make me feel really.
No, you're doing great, man. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Darren, man, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for
absolutely flew by, and
you made this a lot easier than I thought it was. Like one of my friends who I think Liz is still on, or she was anyway. It's like I was saying, I don't know why I agreed to do this. I know we've talked a lot of time. It's like, and I've always said no. I'm glad. Thank you for persevering and thank you for asking me because actually it's been a pleasure and I love what you've done and I love all those conversations you've had, not just on Pilates background but on loads of other topics that you've covered and it's great and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason, they all help us in this battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be life to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.